Do it for the thumbnail. Do it for the clickbait. What's up guys, it's Greg. So today I wanted to do a short and stupid video on the care for superworms and mealworms. This care guide can be either for feeders like mine are, or for pets or a science experiment. I know some people do science fair projects on superworms and mealworms, and there might be people out there who keep them as pets. Personally, I use them for feeders for my smaller lizards and amphibians and stuff like that. Woo! So I just wanted to get out of the way. Superworms and mealworms are two different species. Superworms tend to be bigger, the beetle is bigger. There is a couple physical appearance differences. Superworms, I find, are darker and they have more black to them, but their care is typically identical. This is not on how to breed them, this is just how to keep them alive, thriving, and keep them at a healthy state to feed them to your animals. Let's get started. So when you get superworms or mealworms from either online pet stores or reptile expos, they typically come in little plastic containers like this. They can be taller, they could be solid plastic or see-through, and most of the time they're either in a bare bottom thing like this, or they have sawdust. I find that this is not an adequate way to keep your mealworms and superworms thriving. I typically upgrade. So I did just put a couple in here to show you as a little demonstration. I'm actually going to pop the top off and put them in their little habitat, which is this. So I do already have over 50 in here. There's just a couple, and they do burrow right away. This is an old pastry box thing. It's like you get it at the supermarket. There could be cookies or bread. This actually was from croissants, but clean it out. You can put some air holes in it. You got to make sure they're pretty small because these guys can chew through plastic and they will find a way out. I have my holes on the top, and I did actually use a hot metal shish kebab skewer and just kind of melted the holes in the top. I did have them in something else, but they were escaping because the holes were too big and they were actually on the sides. Make sure you keep the holes on the top. That way it will be almost impossible for them to get out and chew the holes. The one that I did make too big of a holes for it is actually keeping the adults, the beetles, in so I could try to breed them, but this is just what I keep them in. You can also use little plastic Tupperware bins or food containers. I do find using this and recycling it is easy, simple, and efficient. So let's just go over what the requirements are. I leave my superworms and mealworms on oats, rolled oats. This is just Quaker oats from the supermarket. They come in that big tube. I typically just leave about 1 inch of them in here. They will eat them and they will dig in them, and it is a great healthy thing for them to be eating and living on to stay clean and basically smell free. Mine just smell like wet vegetables basically because I do give them fresh vegetables almost every day to eat. So in here I have some old potatoes. I like to feed them potatoes and carrots mostly because they don't go moldy. They typically like to callus over, and especially with potatoes and carrots, you can actually just slice them in half and they will be almost as good as new because the inside likes to stay nice and moist. You can keep your superworms and mealworms on just raw rolled oats or sawdust, but they won't get all their nutritional requirements, and you won't be able to gut load them to feed them to your reptiles and amphibians, and they will eventually die out of either lack of nutrition or lack of moisture. They need a water source, and typically you can either give them a sponge or fresh vegetables, and I prefer the fresh vegetable way. So you either use potatoes and dice them up, and they can get the water they need from that, and they also do eat them, or carrots. I typically use just baby carrots from the grocery store, and when the carrots get old they just shrivel up and you can just throw them away. And I also do give them lettuce and kale and stuff like that on occasion. You can see some little dried up older pieces of it. They do typically almost eat all of it, but what's great is that it doesn't mold, and if it did mold, here is a small piece of mold that grew on the oats. Clumps up and you can just easily throw it away like I'm gonna do right now. There, it's in the garbage. Mealworms and superworms do fine at room temperature. They can be a little warmer or a little cooler. Mealworms will go into their pupa stage if you leave them at room temperature for too long, however, it's best to keep mealworms in the refrigerator, that way they won't pupate and they will go into a dormant stage. Superworms, however, can be kept at room temperature for months without pupating and just thriving and surviving. Typically, superworms, if you want to pupate them, you got to leave them in solitary and in darkness, so they can't be touching, they can't be in something where they're constantly going to get interrupted with noise and shakiness and getting moved around. I like to isolate mine and put them in little cups, pupate them, and turn them into beetles so I can breed them. Once again, this video is not going to be on how to breed them. This is just to keep them alive, thriving, and how to gut load them. So gut load basically means that you feed your superworms and mealworms. That way they're more nutritious and more healthy, I guess, for your reptiles and amphibians, hedgehogs, birds, stuff like that to eat. Superworms and mealworms are great protein. They're a great staple food source for lots of different pets. Some common things that people feed them to are lizards, turtles, box turtles, frogs, toads, tarantulas, scorpions, hedgehogs, canaries, finches, short-tailed opossums, hamsters. So many different things can eat mealworms and superworms, and they're really simple to keep, and they are quiet as opposed to crickets, which is great. Again, you just want to be careful when you're handling your superworms. They can bite, and they do bite sometimes, especially when they're in distress, meaning when they feel that you're constricting them and holding them in a particular way. I have never personally been bitten by a mealworm, but they might still be able to bite, especially when they're larger. Keep them at room temperature, keep them in a darkish place. I keep them on a shelf in my reptile rack. That way they stay pretty dark. They do get a little bit of access to light when the lights are on in my room. That's it, really. So that's it with this video, guys. Really simple, really easy. If you guys want me to, I can make a video on how to breed superworms and mealworms. Just leave a comment down below letting me know. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more awesome pet videos. I will see you guys in my next video. Peace out, guys. Bye.